the word. This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The members of the Council of the Nation have unanimously adopted the 2025 Finance Bill in a plenary session chaired by Speaker Salah Goujil in the presence of Finance Minister Al-Aziz Faid and government members. Finance Minister Al-Aziz Faid has said that Algeria's public debt is below the benchmark index of emerging markets recorded in most Arab and Mediterranean countries, underlining that the government will continue to subsidize widely consumed food products. And at least 8 Palestinians have been killed and several others wounded in airstrikes carried out by the Israeli army against the towns of Gaza and Rafah in the northern part of the Gaza Strip. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail from Radio Algeria International. Good afternoon. First, the members of the Council of the Nation have unanimously adopted the 2025 Finance Law. The text was adopted during a plenary session chaired by the Speaker of the Council of the Nation, Salah Goujil, in the presence of the Minister of Finance, Al-Aziz Faid, and members of the government. The presidents of the parliamentary groups in the Council of the Nation stressed that the 2025 Finance Law took into account the interests of the citizens, foremost of which the preservation of the social character of the state and the guarantees the strengthening of the national economy, while being the most appropriate framework for the implementation of the commitments of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune. The group welcomed the continued policy of social subsidy, in particular with regard to the salary scale, unemployment benefit, the allocation of considerable budgets for the subsidy of consumer products, calling for pooling everyone's efforts and strengthening the internal front to face regional and international challenges. The presidents of the parliamentary groups also congratulated on the occasion the elements of the National People's Army for the military parade organized on the occasion of the 70th anniversary of the outbreak of the Glorious Liberation Revolution, hailing at the same time the constant positions of Algeria with regard to legitimate causes in the world, in particular the Palestinian and Sahrawi questions. Finance Minister Al-Aziz Faid has said that Algeria's public debt is lower than the benchmark index of emerging markets recorded in most Arab and Mediterranean countries, thus allowing the public treasury to mobilize more resources through securities market. During a plenary session at the Council of the Nation devoted to answering questions from the Council members regarding the 2025 Finance Bill, chaired by the Speaker of the Council, Mr. Salah Goujil, in the presence of several members of the government, Mr. Faid indicated that Algeria's public debt represents less than 50% of its gross domestic product, GDP. According to the minister, the stock of public debt is expected to reach 16,879 billion Algerian dinars by the end of 2024, or 49.61% of GDP. This level, made up of 99% domestic debt, remains below the benchmark index of emerging markets, which is between 60 and 70%. This low level of debt offers the Treasury a margin to mobilize additional resources through the Treasury securities market, intended to cover the 2025 budget deficit, adds the minister. On the social level, in order to continue subsidizing widely consumed food products and mitigating the impact of the increase on world markets for the Algerian citizen, additional financial resources have been mobilized. Let's listen to the Minister of Finance.
Les points forts de ce projet, comme vous le savez.
The main points, as you may know, are first of all allowing the consolidation of the gains achieved over the last 5 years in terms of purchasing power balances, and especially the sending of a strong message as to meeting the favorable conditions for investments which will create wealth and jobs emphasized by the President of the Republic. He pledged to create 2 million jobs, reach a GDP of $4 billion, and of course investing in mega projects which are already launched.
Réunir aussi, donc investir dans les grands projets qui sont déjà engagés.
It's worth noting that at the end of his speech, the Minister of Finance evoked the progress made in the digitalization and modernization of the various services of the financial sector. The British House of Lords hosted a meeting in London dedicated to Algerian-British relations, bringing together political figures and representatives of economic groups and business circles to discuss connecting and promoting business links between operators in the two countries. The leaders of the UK Algerian Business Council, UK ABC, said that Algeria has taken off and is developing stressing that the United Kingdom should support it. The former Minister of State for Trade, former Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, responsible for the MENA region and President of the Arab-British Chamber of Commerce, Baroness Simons, stressed that Algeria's economy is modernizing and diversifying, adding that the business climate is favorable and the new investment code offers several tax incentives, asserting that the time has come to revitalize bilateral relations. Algeria's ambassador to the UK, Mr. Nourdine Yazid, for his part said that the country enjoys political stability and offers the opportunity to explore and develop numerous areas of investment, including startups, artificial intelligence, and most promising of all, the agricultural sector. He added that the re-election of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, and his determination to free Algeria from independence on hydrocarbons are additional factors that should encourage British businessmen to invest more of their capital in the most attractive country in the region. For her part, the president of the ABBC, Ms. Olga Maitland, who has made countless trips to Algeria, said that Algeria is more than attractive. It is on the move, it is creative and innovative and has a very energetic private sector. The British Trade Commissioner for Africa, Mr. John Humphrey, took the opportunity to reassure potential investors that he would accompany them, support them throughout the process. For his part, the head of the Tel Group Investment Fund, Yassine Bouhara, asserted that many Algerian products have a place on the British market. At the end of the meeting, the organizers were unanimous in saying that there is a market to be explored in Algeria, and we must seize that opportunity. The Minister of National Solidarity, Family and Women's Condition, Kautar Kirikou, has received here in Algiers the Minister of Social Affairs and Women's Empowerment of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, Ms. Swelma Birouk. During the meeting, the two parties examined ways and means to strengthen bilateral cooperation, particularly in the areas of social development, empowerment of women, and their economic empowerment as well. Ms. Kirikou reaffirmed on this occasion Algeria's constant position in support of the Sahrawi cause, indicating that the Sahrawi women today reflect the finest examples of resistance and struggle for the liberation of their country. She also presented the Algerian experience in the handling of people with specific needs, particularly in the educational and pedagogical fields, as well as the special attention granted to the elderly, empowerment of women, and its support for economic empowerment. For her part, the Sahrawi minister praised the Algerian experience in solidarity and support for different social segments, specifying that her country will benefit greatly from this experience. Now, the Speaker of the Higher Council for Youth, Mustafa Hidawi, is taking part in the African Youth Summit now being held in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The visit is part of the implementation of the conclusions of the Pan-African Youth Forum held recently in the western city of Oran, aimed at exchanging expertise, learning about the different experiences of youth councils in Africa, and developing a clear and forward-looking vision to unify efforts to make these councils more effective and stronger in their countries while creating permanent coordination mechanisms. Earlier, the Speaker of the Higher Council of Youth was received by the Special Envoy of the President of the African Union Commission for Youth Affairs, Childo Cleopatra Mbemba. Prior to the opening of the summit, Mr. Hidawi visited the Ethiopian National Youth Council, where he was briefed on the youth projects carried out by the body, as well as the main youth centers in the country. Shifting now to the Middle East, at least 8 Palestinians were killed and several others were wounded in new airstrikes carried out today by the Israeli army against the towns of Gaza and Rafah in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. Several other people were killed in an overnight attack targeting Beit Lahia in the northern part of the enclave. The large-scale operation launched on the Palestinian territory over 1 year ago has so far claimed over 43,700 lives and caused the displacement of over 1.7 million people. The Israeli or continued attacks on Gaza have triggered off a disastrous humanitarian situation on account of the restrictions imposed on the enclave that undermine the access to aid. To this respect, a team of Algerian physicians are in the northern part of Gaza to provide care to the distressed population there. The director of the Al Ahli Hospital in Gaza, Fadel Naim, is having more on the Algerian physicians team.
وصل فريق طبي مميز.
The arrival in Gaza's northern part of Algerian physicians team coming from Algeria is of major importance, as it will provide assistance to many people in need who did not receive the necessary care on account of a lack of specialties, means, and also on account of the exhaustion of our limited staff in Gaza's northern part. Their presence carries many messages to make the Palestinian people, patients and medical staff know that the Muslims and Arabs are still supportive and sensitive to their suffering.
Meanwhile, Belgium Vice President Minister Petra de Sutter stated that sanctions must be imposed without delay against the Israeli government blamed for its non-respect of international law. In a statement carried by social media as saying that she adhered to the proposal made by the EU diplomacy chief Josep Borrell to suspend the political dialogue with the Israeli occupying authorities on account of the continued acts of aggression on Gaza. The EU senior official has also proposed a ban to be imposed by the EU on imports of products made in the Jewish settlements considered illegal by international law. The EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs has stressed that the measures should or would be discussed next week by the European Council, reiterated that the inhabitants of Gaza were lacking everything and that there was nothing that could support an organized life in several parts of the enclave. And not very far in Lebanon, new airstrikes were carried out today by the Israeli army against the southern suburb of Beirut. This came as the head of the World Health Organization condemned the recent attacks perpetrated by the Israeli forces against the civilian defense center near Baalbek in the eastern part of the country. According to the Lebanese Health Ministry, over 3,400 people have been killed since Israel launched its attack on Lebanon last September. The 27th edition of the Algiers Book Fair is closing today at the Pain Maritime Exhibition Hall here in Algiers. Opened on November 6, the fair has been marked by an impressive number of visitors from all over the country over a span of a week. It was also characterized by the special attention paid to the Palestinian cause. The 27th International Book Fair of Algiers welcomed over 1,000 publishing houses coming from 40 countries, with the state of Qatar as guest of honor, and saw the presentation of the latest publications as well as the implementation of a rich and diversified program including various cultural and intellectual activities led by Algerian, African, and several Arab intellectuals. It's worth recalling that this year's edition coincides with the celebration of the 70th anniversary of the outbreak of the National Liberation War. With this, we come to the end of this news bulletin. Time now for our weekly program, starting with a special program as we celebrate today International Tolerance Day amid the ongoing aggression perpetrated by the Zionist entity against the Palestinian territories and Lebanon. Our colleague Mariam Bershi has compiled this program on the occasion, which will be followed by another program, your weekly program, Echoes of Time, also compiled and presented by our colleague Mariam Bershi. As for me, I'll meet you again tomorrow for a fresh edition of our news bulletin in English. Until then, stay tuned to Radio Algeria International, and bye-bye.
The International Day for Tolerance is celebrated every year on November 16th to promote understanding and respect among people of different cultures, religions, beliefs and races.